Oh, you're gonna love today's video. I take you to a beach that is so beautiful, it reduces me to tears, and I give you a top photography tip for shooting in high winds. But before we get into it, it's about that time of year that you should be thinking about Christmas presents. And what better Christmas gift than my new book, Stories Within Stories. And if you buy right now using this coupon code, you could save a bit of money, and it should probably arrive before Christmas. No guarantees. There's a link in the description below. Right, let me take you along on this Iceland road trip, and we can cry together. When you're doing a road trip in Iceland, you'll be stopping for gas a lot. Right, I'm going to give you a top tip whenever you're filling up at these automated unmanned gas stations in Iceland. If you need a receipt, which I obviously do because this is a business expense, first thing you do is, before you pay and all faff around and all that lot, just go into the display and click on language, choose your language, obviously in my case English, and then if the receipt button is kind of greyed out so that you can't click on it, that means that this machine has run out of paper. Watch, we'll try the next one. So if I go language, English, receipt is still available. So that means I'm gonna have to back up. All right, so I've backed up to pump number 3. So you've got to memorize what pump you're on. So I'm gonna go language, English, insert card. So I'll get my card, wang my card in. Pre-select how much you want to put in. I'm gonna put 5,000 krona. It's about $50. Enter pin, you're not gonna watch. Right, I've entered my pin. Take card. Pump 3 is ready. Start filling. One thing I love about these pumps here in Iceland is they're so fast. It's not like in Canada where you can be stood at a freezing cold pump in January with ice cold winds for 15 minutes. 15 minutes pumping your gas. Here it just blasts out under high pressure. Have a look at this. That's it, we're done. Then you go back to language, English, receipt. There you go, I got my receipt. And then we stopped for pizza. I gobbled all of mine, but I made sure that Amanda only ate half of hers, so I could eat it later. With bellies full of margarita and latte, we resumed our road trip, and I couldn't resist stopping to capture a quick shot of this. This is another thing that I just love about Iceland. Gorgeous horses everywhere you look. I don't know if you can see that, but we've arrived at probably the most famous beach in all of Iceland, Vestrahorn. Now, if you don't know about this one, I think this one's on private land, so you've got to pay to get in. You've got to pay for access to get in. And so far, I'd say it was worth the asking price. The wind was so high and the sand blowing so hard, I was having second thoughts about getting out the camera. So we decided to share Amanda's pizza and perhaps wait out the worst of the wind. You see what I did there, eh? Now, it's essential before you go on any kind of landscape photography shoot, out in the freezing cold and the wind and the elements, that you load up on grotesque carbohydrates and perhaps diabetes-inducing sugar. Pizza. It's actually quite a good pizza, this. I'd tell you where we got it, but I can't pronounce it. So once we've gobbled this down, we're going to get out on the sand dunes and see if we can find some nice compositions that don't have too many footprints in them. So I made some footprints, and sometimes footprints can actually make the shot. And at this point, I didn't fully realise that nature was about to rearrange this scene completely. Having seen about 10 million pictures of Vestrahorn over the years, I think the shots that engage me the most tend to be the ones that show these lovely sand dunes with these grasses growing out of them. I tell you what, the grasses on this mound have seen better days. That's pretty much done. I wonder what's happened to that. But I found a few pleasing shapes already. But I really love the patterns that the grass makes in the sand with the wind. It kind of cuts these little circles in the sand. Not much of a picture, but it's kind of nice to look at. So if, like me, you've ever wondered how big these sand dunes are with the grasses growing out the top, they're quite big. Some of them are like, well, the valleys, it's like a 10-foot valley in between mounds. So they're quite impressive. When you see the pictures, you think they're kind of small, but they're big units. Look at this. All right, so I've been wandering around looking for compositions for about 15 minutes. Quite honestly, I'm spoiled for choice. But one thing that I've found is the further back I get from the beach, where you can actually see that crescent shape of the water, the waves lapping up into the bay, the further away from that I get, the more interesting the sand dunes become because they're taller, the valleys are deeper. And I really love this one here, this lovely little curve and all of those ripples that you can hopefully see in the sand caused by that wind. The sun's just over there. It's going to set somewhere, probably might actually set just over that peak there. And that will give me some nice contrast and relief in all of these sand dunes with those ripples. Oh, that's going to look fantastic. I wonder just how much these sand dunes change from day to day, week to week, you know, with the wind. As far as I can see, these dunes are too high for the tide to creep in and rearrange. So it really just must be down to the wind, just rearranging and sculpting these beautiful crenellated mounds. I don't know about you, but I love some crenellated mounds. The road carves through this basically field of dunes. So if I go on the other side, I'll definitely get more of that water. But the dunes on this side are so pure and unadulterated, and no footsteps, except for my flip-flops. Now, of course, this video would not be complete if I didn't at least try to get a reflexion shot. So I'm down at the flat part that has this tide pool, and the reflection's just spectacular. Look at that, absolutely gorgeous. The only thing is, I'd like the reflection shot, but I'd also like a bit of foreground, whether it's just the edge of where the water finishes. But of course, because it's the end of the day, it's sunset, there's just footprints everywhere, including my own, right? It's just what we do. So I think the only way that you're going to get a nice, clean reflection shot that also features a little bit of foreground with some nice sand shapes is probably first thing in the morning, after the tides come in, cleaned all of these footprints out, and then been pulled back out. And then you're starting with a blank canvas. I hope, I would think so anyway. At this moment, I realised that my video camera has a stills mode that I've never used. So I tried it, and this is what I got. Not too terrible for an Osmo Pocket 3 that's not really meant for this kind of thing. But relax, I will do better. Alright, so I've got a head full of compositional ideas. Can't remember where any of them are. So I think it's time to get back to the car, grab my camera bag, get the tripod out, and try and find a shot in earnest, because even though we're at least 3 hours away from sunset and these clouds possibly lighting up, the thing is, right now, there's still some gorgeous orange sidelight on the grasses and the sand dunes, so I think now is the time to get started. So I decided to just man up and expose the camera with the brand new lens to flying sand. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Just look at that black sand and the way that the sun is creating that relief on those ripples. Absolutely gorgeous. So what I'm doing, you know, the mountain is a given. The grasses are a given, but the foreground is something that I can do a lot about. So I've framed this shot up here to feature this lovely curving dune with obviously with the mountains in the background. Anyway, I'll show you the back of the camera and I'll explain. Okay, I know there's a lot of glare on this screen, but this is what I'm dealing with. So you can see there's the mountain range there. In the center of the frame are all of these lovely grasses, but this foreground is just completely full. I would say 35% of the frame is devoted to this beautiful little sandbar that you can see here. I'm not going to take this shot just yet. I'll wait patiently and hope that that cloud gets out of the shot, or moves just enough that the sun can creep in. The wind was getting worse, and I was getting a bit twitchy about what the sand would do to the new lens and the camera. It was enough to reduce a man to tears. Warm glow actually made the black sand look more like normal sand. And then I took this shot, which is a little bit cooler, and I can't decide which one I like best, so please do me a favour and post a comment. Let me know which you prefer and the reasons why. Just when I thought the wind could not get any worse, well, it actually got way worse, so I figured it was time for a break. Well, I'll tell you what, as soon as the sun got clipped by that cloud, the temperature just plummeted. I went from sweating to now bloody freezing because I'm a bit damp from all the sweating. Look at that sand flying. I think I'm going to head back to the car, see if Amanda's finished her ancient slumber, and just relax for a bit. See what happens over there. Well, Amanda was caught napping under her carbohydrate coma, and she wasn't sharing that pizza for anything. Time to get cosy. All right, back to sleep. Shush. You woke me up. And you wonder why I only get 14 minutes of sleep a day. Anyway, I got back out because things were looking rather interesting. Well, look at that. The sun's going down. Absolutely glorious. Sadly, there's no light on the mountain, but that side light's pretty spectacular on all of these sand dunes and the grasses. And there's got to be some pollen coming out of these grasses because look at my eye. I am just deathly allergic to something out here. It's just, my eyes are streaming and they're swollen. But I don't care. I'm in heaven right now. This is just absolutely magnifique. So I'm not going to blab for too long because I want to just get more and more frames of this shot, and I'm loving this composition. So what I've got going on with this composition is I've got this lovely mound of grass here, and I might actually crop some of that out because I don't need all of that, but I just love these dunes that you can see here. And then if I make this a little bit darker, you can see the mountain and the sun just setting off over there. And I'm shooting at f16 just to get a nice sun star on that sun as it goes down in the top left corner. That's the idea. If this shot turns out to be any good, here's a shot. Despite the hellish discomfort of my crying eyes, I was loving it. Look at that, the last glimmer of sun as it pops behind that cloud. And that is it, the magic is over. So I'm not going to get any direct sunlight for nice contrast and relief, but what I might do is get a slight blue hour blush on those clouds up there. We'll see, it's going to be a while if that happens. It could be another 45 minutes to an hour. So I think it's time to pack up again and get in the car because this salty sand is just, it's playing havoc with me. So time to pack up. Plus the camera needed a break from the constant sandblasting, but it wasn't long before I was back in the elements. All right, so I've had my little break in the car, waited about 40 minutes, and now I'm back out. And I would say that we're at the peak of the afterglow right now. You can see there's a bit of colour going on in the sky, but it's not quite the photogasm that I was hoping for. There's some fairly nice pink hues over there, and this wind is just crazy. I mean, it's unpleasant that all of the sand's getting in my eyes, but one good thing about the wind is that it just blows away people's footprints. They don't last long. I would say in 1 hour, footprints are gone, which is pretty cool. And as you can see in the background now, it looks really hazy. And I'm going to guess it's all that sand that's just flying around in the air. Ooh, that's quite nice over in that direction. Look at that. I'll hang out for another 15, 20 minutes or so. Try not to go blind with this airborne salt. It is brutal.
How many other art forms are there where you are ecstatic and yet totally miserable all at the same time?
Just as I was getting ready to quit, as I really am, I'm feeling pretty done. I'm quite cold. Just as I was getting ready to quit, this cloud started forming over the top of the mountain there, and it's getting bigger and it's spreading wider. And you know me, I love that kind of thing, so I might be here for a while.
As uncomfortable as it is, this is why I do landscape photography, to be out in the elements.
It's blue hour, but it should be called purple hour. Prince would love this, because it's just purple. Everything's got this weird sort of shade of purple. It's kind of eerie, but I like it. And it's coming through on the photographs. And it works kind of well with the green as well, you know, like purple and green, the Incredible Hulk colour scheme. It shouldn't work, but it does. Just a little bit of purple underlight on those clouds there. You know, just from underneath. It's quite delightful. Anyway, this cloud that's formed over that mountain is now almost, in fact, it's crept over to the pointy peak now, which I love. Look at that. So I'm just shooting away like an idiot. Oh, it's really starting to kick off now. Look at that. 1 hour after sunset, and it's still going on. I just love this about Iceland in the summer. It's the gift that keeps on giving, and you know, I like gifts. Look at that. Beautiful. I'll just keep on shivering and shooting. Shivering and shooting like a bloody idiot. Oh, look at that business.
I don't know about you, but for me, the ultimate high is knowing that I'm capturing a banger of a shot.
This is really turning into quite the sunset. I'm so glad I stuck around. Look at that. It's just, what more do you want, eh? Look at that business. That's all right, isn't it? Now, one problem that I'm having is that it is so windy that my shots are just not sharp. They're blurry. So what I've had to do, and this is a really good tip for you if you're ever in these conditions, even though I'm on a tripod, I've switched on my image stabilization, which is usually the thing that you don't want to do. Usually once you've put your camera on a tripod, you want to make sure that you switch off image stabilization because it'll give you a blurry image. But in this case, with the wind just vibrating that camera so badly on the tripod, the image stabilization is actually giving me a sharper image. I've got shutter speeds of about 1/5 of a second. Well, this one is. I'll take one that's a little bit brighter. So this is now 1/2 a second. I absolutely need the image stab for that because in that 1/2 second, this wind is taking it for a ride. So, oh man, this is just... I'm gonna have to stop blabbering and take this shot. If this shot turns out to be any good, here's a shot.
I chose a faster shutter speed just to have a little bit of motion blur in the reads. But how much punishment can one person take, and how much punishment can the camera take?
That's it now. I think I'm done. I'm absolutely gibbering. I should have put more layers on. And of course, I'm wearing flip-flops, as you should when you're on a lovely sandy beach. But I think that's the best of it. There's just one more cloud that's kind of kicking off with colour. That one up there, everything else is kind of blushed off. So I think that's the last of it. That's the last gasp for this sunset. So I think I've got my shots. I'm bloody frozen. It's time to get back to the car and see if Amanda has woken up from her third ancient slumber of the day.
I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters shown here. You really do make it possible for me to keep this channel going. And if anyone's interested in my monthly critique sessions on Patreon, there's a link in the description if you're interested.